Welcome to the Ultimate Music Teachers Productivity and Profitability Podcast. I'm your host, Glory St. Germain. Tune in to discover how you can unleash your teaching potential and turn your passion for music education into profit. Let's dive in. Welcome to today's episode of the Ultimate Music Teachers Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of music education, entrepreneurship, and the art of mastering that life-work balance and bring some harmony into your life. I'm your host, Glory St. Germain, and joining us today is my very special guest, Amy Ballantyne. Amy is a TEDx speaker, executive life coach, and a sought-after workplace trainer. She's a best-selling author and the vibrant host of the podcast, Power to the People Pleasers. Can't wait to hear more about that one. What about her mission? Her mission is to inspire 10,000 humans to embrace their worthiness and release the daily overwhelm and pressure and the stress that's preventing them from living the life that they desire. So let's get started with some thought-provoking questions for Miss Amy. And perhaps, you never know, we'll sprinkle in a little bit of humor along the way, because as we know, life is too short not to laugh. So welcome, Amy.
Oh, thank you so much for that great introduction. I'm so excited to be here today.
It's wonderful to have you, Amy, and fantastic to have you with us. You know, as musicians, we all kind of realize that there's things that hold us back. And I want to, kick things off with a bit of a bang here. You're on a mission to inspire 10,000 humans. I mean, really, it's an incredible journey. And what maybe sparked this specific goal, and how are you tracking this progress?
Yeah, so my mission is to really help people to recognize that they are enough. So many of my clients, this is the underlying vibration that I'm feeling, the wording, the energy that is being emitted from them. And really, it actually stems from my own
Yeah.
story of deciding to embrace my worthiness and seeing some key people in my life not feeling like they are worthy, and taking steps to make that shift, to make that change, to connect to myself, to realize that I am enough, I am worthy, I am enough in every moment, and I always have been and I always will, no matter what. All of these things which, quite honestly, I could never say before I did this work. And how am I tracking it? Every single time I do a speaking engagement, a coaching engagement, these are moments where I am, giving myself a little tally into being able to see that light bulb moment. Obviously, there are have been times with clients where they will actually come right out and say, I am enough. And that is a beautiful moment when they're recognizing that and saying that right in front of me in that moment. That doesn't always happen, but you can see, based on a person's growth over time, the shift in their language, the shift in their posture, the shift in their confidence that comes with some of the work. So it's been an incredible experience, and I'm grateful to be a part of the journey with the people who have allowed me to be.
Yeah, it's so wonderful, Amy, because I think too, for music educators, we are so compassionate, we're so caring about our students that sometimes we forget about ourselves. And we just need something to uplift us as well, which is, why we're here together on the podcast today, is just to share what can you do? What are some of the things that can help you in your personal journey? And your expertise in, work-life integration is really crucial for entrepreneurs, including those in the music education business. Could you maybe share a personal story or a pivotal moment that highlighted the importance of your balance in the work for you?
For me, it was many, many years ago before I had kids, actually, when I was working a lot of hours, silly hours, and then having a pretty long commute added on top of that. And realizing at that time that I couldn't see how I could fit the family that I deeply desired to have. I couldn't even figure out in my mind how I could fit that in the way that my lifestyle currently was.
Yeah.
And this really was the beginning of honestly, I call it life design, where we do have a choice. We get to choose our experience in life, and making a concerted effort to ensure that the things that we value are showing up in our daily agenda. So, really starting to build out time for having space for movement, having space to be with my family. And when the children eventually came along, I really stepped into that place, that time in my life of being really, really intentional. I think sometimes we can get so bogged down in all of the busyness and the chaos and trying to juggle all of the things
Yeah.
that we lose intentionality. And when we can come back to that place of saying, okay, what do I really value? What do I really want to have in my life? And what is missing, like being clear, really clear on what is missing and what you really want to have happening, and then making an actual plan on how you can add that in piece by piece, often small step at a time. This is how we move to that place. I know you said the word balance before. I like using the word integration. Someone
Yes.
said that once, and I was like, yes, that feels so much more aligned to me, because
Yeah.
when we look at a balance, it's usually a 50-50 kind of feel, but how often do we spend 50% of our time in work and then 50% of our time in our family? Like it's
Yeah.
so unrealistic of
That's
a
true.
visual
Yeah.
and we're all aiming for something that's so, in my mind, unrealistic, that if we can see it as this almost like two forks coming together, right?
Hmm.
Integrating life and work together. And some moments in your day are going to be more heavily focused on work, and some are more heavily focused on family, and being okay that they're going to shift and move together beautifully, as opposed to this attempting to fit into this state of balance,
Yes.
right?
Yes, you're really, and I'm sure our listeners are thinking while you're speaking, Amy, because so many times we do. I think I feel guilty of that as well. I'm a bit of a workaholic, I'll just admit it. And so we have desires. But I think when we accept the fact that it's okay to work hard and it's okay to play
Yes.
hard, and to set your goals and to set your boundaries sometimes about saying this is a day when I'm not working, this is a day when I'm with family. And I think so many times, especially in music education, many music educators are teaching from home, and it is a fine line between working in your home office space and then going through the door, and now you're with your family saying, clean up your room, do the dishes, blah blah blah. Then you walk back in the studio and have to say, oh, hello, Amy, and how did your practice go this week? It's sometimes is that, chaotic. So I think to accept yourself and say, this is what I do, treat my children like my students, be kind. I think
Yes.
it's certainly there. And I love your thought about not thinking of it as balance, because you're right, it's not a 50-50. And I think too, the music education platform is ever evolving, and from your perspective, Amy, how do you see the role of coaching, which is big, and self-care evolving within our industry to
Mhm.
kind of, take that combat of our common issues and limiting beliefs and overwhelm and stress and everything else that goes with it?
Well, you fabulous people in music education are humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh,
you're humans, and humans require care. So, taking some time in, I would say, really, how is it evolving? It's more and more people recognizing that, like other professions who may have been seeing coaching as a valuable asset,
yeah.
more and more business professionals, entrepreneurs, people in all walks of and employment, are seeing that having a coach helps them honestly be accountable to the other pieces in their life. It's the same way as the music educator saying, "Did you practice your piano?" and holding that student accountable. The
Mhm.
coach is holding the music educator accountable for the other parts of their life that they want to move the needle in, right? It's that same experience for the teacher having that accountability. So if the music educator is saying, I'm feeling really exhausted, I'm feeling really tired, I've given all of this beautiful energy to my students all day long, and now my family's pulling that energy. I want to, and notice I'm not using the word need to, but I want to have more
Yeah.
energy for myself. A coach can be the person that's saying, okay, then music educator, what are you doing for you? What is
Yes.
the plan? What are the barriers to that plan? How can we actually create accountability and uh, feedback around what you're doing so that you can move the needle forward in the other areas of your life that maybe aren't to the level you want them to be yet?
Yeah, yeah, it's so well said, Amy. And I also think that as music educators, we are the coach for our students. And I'm all about continued education and professional development. And I think it's essential for us as music educators not to think, oh, well, I know how to play the piano and I know how to teach music theory, so I'm in business. But I think if you really want to be passionate about your music education as an educator, you also need a coach to help you grow your own mental health and that balance that we call now integration into how can we make things work. And I think we all have that one person who's kind of taken us on that journey to where we are today. And you mentioned a significant teacher in your coach training. Can you share a little bit about how this relationship transformed your approach to your work, or maybe a lighthearted moment that or lesson that you've learned from your relationship?
Yeah, I feel so grateful every day that I met this human. He was part of teaching me the International Coaching Federation experience of coaching. And I hope he listens to this podcast, but uh, he was really pivotal in someone else showing belief in me that wasn't in my life, and amongst many other students who were learning how to take their coaching to the next level. He really not only took the time to help me move through the areas for improvement, right? There were
Yeah.
things that I wasn't doing well, and I got to improve, and he was kind and straightforward about that feedback to me so I could continue to improve and continue to improve. And he pushed me a bit, which I also appreciate very much when sometimes it was frustrating. I was
Yeah.
being marked on my coaching. I was being marked on how I was showing up with clients and evaluated and given feedback. And sometimes it was frustrating, but he always came from a place of, I know that you are already a really good coach. And he kept on wiring that in for me that I was already doing very well, but he wanted to help me get to the next level and the next level. And the only way to do that was to be giving, and I call it in my practice, loving accountability and
Yeah.
guidance. He didn't use those words, but that's what he was doing for me, is pushing me forward with that support and kindness, but also clarity. So I really got
Mhm.
where I needed to improve,
Yeah.
and I could get better because of that support. So I'm very very grateful that I he came into my life.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just, they always say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I think sometimes we need to be open to just taking that step, not to be afraid, but to know that nurturing that relationship to really aspire to be our best selves as music educators, as coaches, we also have to go through it. And I think it makes you a better coach when you don't just call yourself a coach, but you've actually been coached as to how to become a coach. That's a whole other conversation. But I think it's a really important aspect of not only being an educator, but being an entrepreneur, being a business owner. And it's really powerful, Amy. Thank you. And yes, we'll make sure he listens to the podcast.
I'm going to send it.
Good. And well, let's just dive into a bit of fun here. If you had to choose a musical instrument, any
Mhm.
instrument on the planet, or make one up that represents your coaching style, what would
Mhm.
that be and why?
You know, it would be a piano. I love, 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 love all day long. Love piano music, love, and it would represent my coaching style in, I don't just play in the low notes or the high notes. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you. I don't play the piano. I was a ballet dancer my whole life. And so that's where my love of piano came, is just hearing that music and being able to move my body and move my soul through that. But one of my daughters plays. And so I just love when she plays the piano. But she doesn't play in the high notes and she doesn't play in the low notes only. It is this variety.
Yeah.
And I love that idea that when I'm with clients, I can hold the space in those really challenging times where we are going deeper and we are going into some things that feel really uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and I can hold the space when we are celebrating. And in the piano, there are such beautiful contrast in
Yes.
how that can be played. And that's really what I love about coaching, is the variety of
Hmm.
what we talk about and the topics that can come up, and how I can help people move from perhaps the low notes in their life to the higher.
Oh, that's so well said, Amy. And when you're a dancer, you are in the realm of music. I mean, obviously, it's about tempos, quick and slow and so on. Little story, I remember when my husband and I were going to go on a cruise ship, and my husband is a professional entertainer, so he's always on the stage, and I'm just sitting down, and I don't get to dance with him because he's on stage. So we decided to go and take some dance lessons together to just learn a little bit of Latin, this and that, and have some fun doing it before we went on the cruise. And the very first dance lesson, the instructor said to us, and we were there with another couple, we're friends of ours. So there's just the two couples and the instructor. And she said, in my many years of teaching dance, when I've had couples come for their first lesson, she said, rarely do they ever know to come in on the one. And she said, I always have to explain to them, this is the intro, and this is an upbeat, and now you come in on the one, which is the downbeat. Anyway, it was really funny, and we're like, well, we're professional musicians. So anyway, she enjoyed that. But I think it is so moving, and even when you're talking about your daughter playing the piano, and as I was growing up in a musical family, and my mother would often say to me, you want to wash the dishes or play the piano? And I'd say, bye. And I'd go play the piano. And it was just filling the house, and with that passion for music, and just really, I'm sure you enjoy hearing your daughter play, and I'm sure she enjoys watching you dance too. It's just that love of family. And speaking of love, I love your podcast, Power to the People Pleasers. I mean, you tackle a theme that really resonates with so many people. Can you share maybe an unexpected or a particularly interesting feedback story from a listener?
Yeah. So, power to the people pleasers is really about empowering those of us. And I call myself a recovering people pleaser. I've still had some moments. Okay. But empowering those of us who often put ourselves last,
Yeah.
say yes to way too many things, feel that challenge around boundaries and so on. And I think one of my recent moments of feedback, I had done my first ever solo podcast episode. I usually interview, like we're in this experience together,
Yeah.
but I had done a solo episode, and it was about my imposter syndrome. And I got a lot of feedback on that experience really resonating with a number of individuals, and that it was one of the times where they could really get to understand my own heart and my own journey. And I think there's some value in there's always value in us having the dialogue and having this rich discussion today, but there's also value in us taking some time to be vulnerable and share a little bit of our own journey,
Yeah.
um, because so because our listeners want to know us as well. And I love that you're sprinkling some of your own experiences into this podcast as well. I think that we get to do that a little bit more as podcast hosts, and I get to do that a little bit more, and I'm committing to doing a few more solo episodes so I can show my heart and show that I am
Yes.
truly a person recovering from people pleasing, and that it still does come up from time to time, and that allows for the relatability for people
Mhm.
that, no one's perfect, and
Exactly.
we all have different challenges we're facing, and different beliefs and stories that we're telling ourselves, and
Yeah.
many of them, when we really think about it, are relatable for people. So,
Mhm.
this is probably one of my more recent moments of feedback.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to hear you talk about people pleasing, because I think on one spectrum is we want to please all of these people in our lives and make sure everyone likes us and is happy with us, and we're friends. But then I find too that I have this people pleaser person, which is within my mind myself. Even last night, sometimes when you get to the end of the day, that's when that imposter syndrome comes out, and it'll talk to me and say, you just signed up for what now? Why are you doing this? You told yourself no more courses. And then sure enough, you just throw out another 10 grand to invest it in this program. Like, why are you? And so there's that torment within ourselves. And I'm trying to please that person who's happy with me. And then the other person in my mind comes and says, what the heck are you doing, Miss Glory? So it
Mhm.
is a constant thing. But I think the key factor that you're presenting in your podcast is taking a breath into moments of thought, reflection, and above all else, just live your life with gratitude and have fun. I'm a bit of a party girl when it comes to just wanting to have fun. And I think that's one of the key factors, right, Amy, is just enjoy your
Yes.
life.
Enjoy
Yeah.
your life for sure. Absolutely. And recognizing that if you can be more in alignment with feeling more joy or more calm or more peace or positivity, those higher vibrations, those better feelings,
Yeah.
the the people pleasing tendencies actually, in my experience, have
Yeah.
fallen away because I'm more aligned with my own self and
Yeah.
what my soul, what I want to be aligned with in this life.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think, and in the realm of self improvement and personal growth, there's always going to be a new challenge around the corner,
Mhm.
just forever. Just go around the corner and there it is. And what's maybe a most recent challenge that you've taken on? How's that impacted your life or your work?
Yeah, so I love that you said that you're a person who signs up for other courses. I'm also
Everything.
we could be best friends.
I love to be sold to, like, give me your pitch. And I'm like, very good. Put in a bit of humor, like the transition.
Love to be sold to. You're hilarious. So, right now, the main things that I'm working on in terms of self improvement and development. I've been really feeling aligned and called to do more educating and connection to emotional intelligence. And I am a highly emotional person. I'm very connected to my emotions. And so I feel like this is an area where I can add more value to people's lives and do more workshops and things like that. So I am wrapping up my certification to be a Genos practitioner, and they have an amazing, beautiful emotional intelligence assessment system that I'll be using. And I'm excited about this because it feels like a missing piece for me, actually, of another aspect that I can really serve with.
One of the things that people often don't want to talk about is failure. And I think it's a subject that we often try to avoid, but we also know that you can't, they often say you need to unlearn something to learn something. And I think failure is, in my industry, I don't really like to call it failure, but I do call it feedback. And I think it's really crucial for growth. And even when you mentioned, working with your coaches and becoming, a superpower coach, there is feedback. And can you share a time when something maybe didn't go as planned in your career, and how you turned that experience into something positive?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, Gloria, I've got a very recent one.
Oh, good.
Very recent.
We're getting
In
the
that
juice. We're getting the
we
juice.
are we are getting the juice. So, as I'm saying to you, I'm on this journey of becoming certified, and I had an evaluation yesterday. And well, let's just say I failed the evaluation, and I rarely, I rarely fail at things. So it was a moment for me in that the assessment was scheduled to take an hour and a half. And within the first, I don't know, 25 minutes, she was telling me, I've got to stop you. You've already failed. And so
Oh my gosh.
it was a moment of pause for me of, okay, I also went into the state of, well, this sucks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This doesn't fit with my plans. And, there was a short moment, there was a short period of time of beating myself up.
Yeah.
Uh, but I recognized pretty quickly that one of the steps for me was, okay, I need to not sit in this state of mind that is unproductive and unhelpful. So
Right.
very soon after, I was like, okay, I'm going to do a task that's going to take my mind off this for a moment before I like figure out what's happening next.
Yeah.
And then so that got my brain off of it. But then I started to really program in the mindset of, this is simply feedback. It's a
Yeah.
feedback, and it's feedback on the preparation. Where can I prepare for better? This person did a great job of supporting me to know how to improve and how to get better, and allowed me to even record our conversation from that point forward, so I can go back and
Yeah.
prepare even better for the next round. And I mean, she was very gracious in giving me some positive feedback about all of the things that I did really do well. So I didn't leave that feeling totally deflated. And I know it literally was two sentences that caused me problems. But we all have these moments. And I
Yeah.
appreciate that you ask this on the podcast,
Yeah.
because, I went into this interaction with a good friend after yesterday. We went for a walk later on in the day, and I didn't bring it up. And part of the reason why I didn't bring it up was because, one, I was still processing that it was feedback, and
Yeah.
that's all it is. And it doesn't have to be a bigger story. And I didn't want to find myself falling into a bigger story by discussing it
Yeah.
and having it um, kind of magnify the a problem that wasn't really there. It simply was, I needed to
Yeah.
learn something in order to explain it a little bit better,
Yeah.
and that was all it needed to be.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some times where in some instances, it can be valuable. Like today, it's valuable for me to talk about my learnings from it. And it was
Oh,
only yesterday, because I
right.
didn't allow it to expand into something that it's not.
Yeah.
But recognizing that there are times when, if we go into that state of failure means this about me,
Yeah.
and cause us to get on that spiral of despair. And then we go down and down and down and down.
Yeah.
Now, this one thing that really doesn't have to have that giant of a meaning could really derail me
Yep.
and take me off my game for way longer than it needed to.
Yeah.
So I think I'm really grateful for you asking this question, and allowing me to now process and share that there is benefit to
Yeah.
failure. And I'm like everybody else who has challenges and failures, and how I deal with it. This is my opportunity to then demonstrate
Yeah.
my emotional intelligence. How I deal with that failure also is a reflection of my growth as well, in that I didn't stay in the yuck
Hmm.
for an extended period of time. I didn't make it mean something more. And I took actions to help myself process and move through those feelings, not by just pushing them down and sucking them down, but by, recognizing what would help me to come out of it and
Right.
move to the next place.
Yeah. Amy, I just have to, first of all, say a huge thank you for just being vulnerable and, sharing that, because I think as musicians, whoo, music educators, musicians, composers, whatever, we all feel that. And sometimes it's because we go and perform at a festival, sometimes because we're doing a music exam, sometimes it's a, competition and someone is better than us. And we need to accept that and process that. And it was so interesting when you said, you went for a walk with your friend and didn't share it. And so often I always say, so you've got this little zit on your face, and rather than eh, thinking, you wouldn't ask your friend, what do you think is wrong with me? You'd go to the doctor and say, I've got this zit on my face, I can't get rid of it. And I think the reason I'm saying that is so many times when we talk to our friends and share things that they don't know anything about. They haven't taken the high level of knowledge that you have. They're still your friend. But so often we think it's okay to just ask a friend when really we need to go to a professional coach such as yourself to get the feedback that is actually going to help us in our journey. And you really emphasize that you practice what you preach. You're sharing your knowledge, but you're also processing it in a way that you go, oh, so maybe the feedback was a little bit of a gift to go, oh, this is what it feels like when I'm coaching as well. And how can I help other people go through that? Because it's powerful. Like when we're in, I call it the black hole. And
Yeah.
so for myself, if I describe my personality, I'd say I'm a pretty much straight line. I'm always happy. My husband calls me annoyingly happy because I'm a morning person. So I wake up, I get a coffee, I make a smoothie, and I'm like smiling all day. And they're all like, okay, go away. Like, just come back in an hour or two. But I think the point is that when I personally go in the black hole, as I call it, that one that you just said, now you've got feedback and someone doesn't like the way I'm teaching something, I just don't know how to get out. And that's a struggle for me because I'm always here on this straight line of happiness. Let's be positive. I'm annoyingly positive, and I know that because I choose happiness. But I also know that I'm human too. And if I go in the black hole, how do I get out? And so I'll ask you that as my coach right now. How do I get out of
Yes. I'm
how
like,
do I
can I
get out of
coach you on this?
yes, please. How the hell do I get out of the black hole?
So the question that I would ask you is, what are some examples of things that help you to feel joyful, happy? What are some of the examples that help you to feel that?
I think accomplishing things
Mhm.
makes me feel joy. I'm running a business, and when I'm doing blog posts, podcasts, things in the back end of our coaching program, our Ultimate Music Theory Teachers Certification course, there's things to do. And when I get stuff done, it makes me feel like, woo, okay, check.
Yes.
I'm a typical teacher. Check that off the list. You got that done. And life happens, and sometimes it can be family, sometimes it could be business, sometimes friends. And then if I fall in the black hole, I don't know how to get out or deal with that. And that's a
Mhm.
challenge. It doesn't mean that, we're being so vulnerable in our podcast today. So for those of you that are still listening, you're getting the juicy stuff right now.
Well, and so thank you for sharing. So one of the things that helps you to feel happiness and joy, and I'm sure there's many, many more than this that you could list, but one of the things is being able to accomplish something and check it off the list. So I would
Yeah.
challenge you that next time that you find yourself going into the black hole, how can you use this knowledge
Yeah.
to help yourself say, similar to how I went yesterday, in that I
Yeah.
was like, I need, not need to, let me stop. I want to step out of this energy that I'm feeling. What are
Yes.
the things that will help me feel better? And I essentially went down my checklist of what would help me feel better.
Yeah.
And one of the things similar to you was getting a task done and being
Yeah.
able to check it off my list. And
Yeah.
so it's knowing those things about yourself in advance of what
Mhm.
brings you happiness and joy. So I would guess music
Yeah.
probably would be one of your things, right? So
Yeah.
it's like noticing, okay, I'm feeling this low, yucky energy. What can I do to move the needle just a small amount so I can feel a little bit better? And then take that action and then say, okay, I'm feeling a little bit better. I still don't feel fabulous. I'm like you, I'm a happy person, I choose happiness most of the time, but we fall into the yuck, right? And so,
Yeah.
how can I feel a little bit better? It's that one little stepping stone. Okay, I think I need to do a 5-minute meditation. Okay, so I
Mhm.
go do that thing. I still don't feel that great. I still am feeling like I'm in the yuck. How can I process this a little bit more? Or how
Yeah.
can I move my body? How can I use what I know that brings me this feeling that I want to have again?
Yes.
Use those tools. So I would challenge you,
Mhm.
your homework after this would be to go make a bigger list so that when you fall into the black hole, you can literally turn to the list and go,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And each time notice as you step up that stair towards the feeling of happiness again, am I feeling a little bit better? Yes or no? Okay, I
Yeah.
need to do another, not need to, get to do another activity.
Yeah.
Do I feel a little bit better? Yes or no? Right. And you're moving yourself
Yeah.
out of that black hole.
I love that. One of the things on my list was, and it's so funny that we're having this conversation because it's kind of going to lead directly into my next question for you. But as I was feeling a few things, I was going through, and I decided I needed to do something for me to uplift my soul. And I decided to sign up for salsa and Zumba dance classes, which I did. And I just signed up a couple of weeks ago. I had my first two classes, and it brought me out of that funk. And it's just at the top of the street. It's all women, and it was so much fun. And the instructor, she's a professional dancer from Poland, and she smiled the whole time. So because I'm mimicking her, and we know it's all looking in the mirrors, and there was just about maybe 10 of us in the class. So we had lots of space, and we're doing all these Zumba dance moves. It was my first dance class like ever in my life. And I was just like, this is so much fun. But I think when and which is really, I guess, why I'm so passionate about music, is because music can transform you, period. You wouldn't go to a funeral and put on some rock and roll, or pop or jazz stuff that is a workout routine, because it puts us in state. You and I were talking
Mhm.
before we started recording. What do we listen to when we're getting ready to prepare for a TEDx talk, or when we're getting ready to go into a big stage where we might be speaking? So imagine, Miss Amy, that you're composing a soundtrack of your life. So what genre would it be? Can you give us a little sneak peek into one of your tracks?
Absolutely. Mine would be pop. It would be The Greatest Showman. And
Uh-huh.
I listen to these songs every time I'm about to do a speaking
Yeah.
engagement. It's like this fuel inside of me.
Yeah.
I love it. Absolutely changes my state.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's cool to have that song. Mine is
Hmm.
Uptown Funk. Don't believe me, just watch,
Yeah.
and I think it is so empowering. And finally, Amy, well, first of all, I adore you, and I know we're going to have many more conversations as we wrap up. And thanks for coaching me today too. As we wrap up this enlightening conversation, what's maybe one piece of advice that you would like to offer our listeners who are kind of navigating the pressures of the music education industry and still striving to have make a significant impact through their teaching and entrepreneurship?
So the message that I would leave these amazing music educators is you are such a gift to the world. And by you sharing your passion and your enthusiasm for music, you are truly transforming the lives around you and really being kind and compassionate to yourself in those moments of challenge, really being kind to yourself when you're feeling that something isn't going your way. Kindness will be the key for you shifting out of that state. And if we could spend more time in that towards ourselves,
Mhm.
man, it would be a different world. So this is
Yeah,
shifting this energy of knowing that you are enough, being kind to yourself, and truly breathing in that you are making a difference by simply sharing this beautiful, beautiful skill and passion and energy that you have with the world.
yeah. Now you're bringing me to tears. Oh, Miss Amy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. And your insights and stories are just a beacon of light, for navigating the complex and yet rewarding path of music education and personal development. How can people connect and learn a little bit more about you, Amy?
Yes, please. My websites are amyballantyne.com, very simple, my last name,
Yeah.
and ballantynecoaching.com. And on Instagram, that would be great to connect with me, Amy Ballantyne there.
Thank you so much, Amy. And we will put all of those links in the show notes as well. And thanks for sharing your wisdom and humor and passion with our listeners on the Ultimate Music Teachers Productivity and Profitability podcast. If you like this episode, and I know you did, please subscribe and share. Together, we can transform lives through the power of music. And if you want to be a guest or hear from an expert, I invite you to explore what's possible for your musical journey and connect with us inside the Ultimate Music Teachers private Facebook group, where we network, answer questions, host live events, and connect on a deeper level. So here's to your ultimate music teaching success with productivity and profitability. Till next time, teach with passion. Bye now. Thanks for listening to the Ultimate Music Teachers Productivity and Profitability podcast. Together, we can transform lives through the power of music education. I invite you to explore what's possible for your musical journey inside our UMT community. Simply join our Ultimate Music Teachers private Facebook group, where we network, answer questions, host live events, and connect on a deeper level. Here's to your ultimate music teaching success with productivity and profitability. Till next time, teach with passion.